Good evening to you, beautiful friends, or good morning, depending on what day it is, where in the world you are. Just wanting to take a moment. It's been some time since I've come on and shared some thoughts. Just been living some life, growing and learning, and yeah, I just wanted to pop on. It is such an incredible journey, and I'm not naive. I see what's going on in the world. I'm not ignorant, but I am a staunch nonconformist, always have been. And fortunately, these days, being, a grown woman, I am not necessarily so quick to get caught into that fear rhetoric and helplessness. And by golly, call it delusion, if you will, but I'm not going to get caught up in that madness. There it's a time. It's a time to be alive. I am a firm believer that so much of our current society right now is so borderline normalized psychopathy. We normalize apathy. So much is about distracting ourselves and taking away from our purpose, which truly is to just be here to find joy, to be of service to other people. We these days oftentimes want to attribute or assign a price tag to our value. There is that saying that anything that you're good at doing, you shouldn't do for free. And it's gross. I don't know. I'm old. I'm 40. It's my jubilee year. And due to my personal experiences in life and what have you, I realized, and it's funny, I was spending some time with some friends today, and there is so much that I have gone along with up to this point. Obviously, having to exist in this world and this society and not wanting to catch a lot of flack. And no mas, no more. Because, in all honesty, I don't know that I've ever necessarily agreed with it, but I've always subscribed to it too, like everybody else. And it's hard because to exist so differently, to kind of show people another way, it causes cognitive dissonance. And, research that because anything I speak on, obviously, is subject to the filter of your own interpretation and where you're at. And it's so tricky. It's so strange. I have such an overall love of humanity, but I'm at a place to where interpersonally, I'm very, very selective about who I choose to align energies with. And unfortunately, it's just because people can only meet you from a place that they're at, projection, etc. And then they can kind of exemplify through their behaviors if they're able to step outside of their observations. And it becomes very telling as an outside observer. Some of you might be like, what the what? And some of you might be like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you mean, but I couldn't really verbalize it. And essentially, just let's say, for example, you are trying to talk to somebody and let's rewind. Let's stop that. I was going to go into this example, but it was such a weak one, so I don't know that I'm going to speak on that. So much, everything all at once. 3 minutes, 42 seconds. Grab a snack. Buckle in. I've been wanting to speak for a while, just a lot, in a large amount of time, to cover some things. If you knew me on a personal level, you would understand I'm a talker. Man, I think it's important. I think it's important for us to share our stories, our observations, etc. And I once upon a time had such a passion. I wanted to get into academia and I wanted to teach, but I am a staunch nonconformist, so I don't care for the way that we do it at present. And grab yourself a snack, because who knows where this is going to go. This is my bitter but not bitter commentary on our society as a whole and my unmasking and encouraging and empowering you to mask, because what the hell is the new normal? Grab a snack, get comfortable. Here's to you. So, I was visiting some friends today to kind of rewind a bit, and I've recently come to a place where I've cut off more than a few connections, of all sorts, be it family, be it a friend level, be it even deciding that I don't know that romance is ever going to be a thing for me moving forward. And it is so much of what we are normalizing and accepting, and even just coping mechanisms. And it's so unfortunate because, again, the cognitive dissonance shattering, echo chambers. Wanting to tread carefully and not necessarily shattering anybody's psyche and what they're needing to get by, per se. But so much of how we do what we do is this weird series of manifestations of just coping and not necessarily living for much outside of ourselves. And I spoke in a previous video to just this alleged competition of resources, and I also spoke to kind of having these weird conversations with my Google Gemini. And I'm not going to ask it questions and play the answers, though I should, to be completely honest with you. It's never simple because clearly the way I talk, I can't just ask like a simple yes or no question. But in some of the conversations, even my Google Gemini, and you find your ways, you ask your Google Assist, your AI, what have you. But essentially, because of where we are at as a society, we have absolutely capped, just the farming, the resources, all of this, the technology, and we could quite literally provide for everybody. And we would need to exercise discipline. Everybody doesn't need to eat steak every single night, etc. And we don't all need mega mansions. But that's just it. That's where, again, it's the weird neuroses of the head and the heart, and this need for validation because, I need to feel better because I have a mansion, etc. Unfortunately, there is a very real truth that if you would not be happy with your basic needs met, i.e., a good shelter, a place to sleep, food, etc., there's kind of something wrong with you. But is there? Again, because it's so circular logic. We have enough, yet people are dying and starving. And it's interesting because to speak of it sometimes, like, it's very interesting how I get perceived as bitter or what have you. I'm not. I'm so full of joy, with the exception that I feel like for the most part we're choosing to enslave people because of, again, the competition of resources. The fact that some people would be like, oh, well, some people don't want to work because they're lazy and they want to drink and smoke and not do anything and blah, blah, blah. Into which it's trauma. And again, if we were providing for everybody's resources, we would have the space to talk, to heal, to cope. It's sad. I think of the Bible, and Jesus wept. So many times I just don't necessarily want to have the conversations because I feel like this strange executive administrative assistant on steroids. Maybe it's megalomania, maybe it's my own ego, but I feel like I have the answers. I'm not saying I can do it. God knows I'm not that smart, I'm not that strong, but I feel like I can make the connections, if that makes sense. It is the most wonderful Von Tropy, if you're familiar, like glass half full type of oppositional defiant disorder. I don't know that I see problems. I only see solutions. And as an outside observer sometimes, and this is why I've had to kind of step back, it seems like as a society we just want to be sad, we just want to be pissed, we just want to make problems. And it was beautiful today because, for example, a friend of mine played a song for me and I didn't necessarily care for it. And he was like, so what do you think of this song? And I said, hey, so the place that I'm at in my journey, I realize, even though it might not seem like it, I'm definitely masking and sugarcoating, and I take other people's feelings and thoughts into consideration. Do you want me to speak on how I'm really feeling about this, or do you want me to, what do you want? And it was kind of a tense moment. He said, well, I really want you to tell me the truth. And in my human experience, this is such a tough one. Because so many times, and I'm wondering how many of you can relate to where someone says they want the truth, and then you give them the truth, and you give them your truth, and it's like, eesh. And I can definitely say I've been on the receiving end, as in I'm sure there are people who be like, what do you mean? I gave you my truth, and you didn't like it. And not to be oppositional to defiant disorder, I would say it's probably how you told me, i.e., were you owning it? Were you saying, well, I feel this way because of how you blah, blah, blah? Or were you saying, you did this, yada, yada? Because unfortunately, it's not that I'm not trying to validate your feelings, but there is an inherent lack of truth. Again, own your responsibility. And it's not me trying to not paint or not even own how I am. Like, sure, I can own that certain actions might make you feel a way, but no, you don't have the right to declare what my intention was, etc. There's a certain level of narcissism that actually becomes inherent if someone is not necessarily willing to incorporate, your intention, your interpretations. But let's talk for another day. It's gonna be my new catchphrase. I need to get or not a new. It's not like I have one. I need to get a T-shirt printer. But just in that conversation, my friend, it was a song from that show, The Punisher. Something like "Let 'em get high, let 'em get high," and let me be the first to tell you. Again, everything in moderation. I support everybody's responsible right to cope how they cope. But for me, so much of our artistry these days, unfortunately, there is such an inherent lack of soul. People aren't taking the time to even actually get to know themselves. They don't question why they think the way they do. So much of it is even about being accepted by people. So it isn't inherently real. And again, it's such a philosophical question. What is real, right? It's not organic. It's not independent, etc. And so I said, well, I'm glad that you have found a song. And by the way, I didn't set the stage well for this. It was in regards to him potentially singing the song for karaoke one night because it came about that we should all karaoke. And I said, I'm really glad that you found a song. I was like, but a lot of the artistry these days, for me personally, I just feel like perhaps there isn't a depth of exploration of soul, content of character, etc. And it was nice to be safe in that. And he kind of just laid it for a minute, and I felt bad, so I was like, I'm not trying to poop on your particular feelings. And I'm being mindful of my language, in case you're wondering, because I don't necessarily want to make this an 18 and over, because I do want to make sure that anybody that wants to view this can view this. Because going back to an earlier point, academia, being also socially deviant, etc., will come back together. Because to go back to the previous point, most recently, with the karaoke bits, it's again the cognitive dissonance and wanting to let people have their experience. But I don't think that we realize as a society how sensitive we have gotten to where, like, if we hear a negative thought, a negative opinion, etc., we're actually denying somebody their humanity. We should be healthy and hale and strong enough to allow someone to have a difference of opinion and to not necessarily demonize or begrudge them. And if for whatever reason we are, then perhaps that's a key indicator that maybe they're just not meant to be in alignment with us. And so it was really, really nice. And another great moment, like parenting. So in this instance, there are children that can be involved sometimes when I'm visiting these particular friends. And God bless them, like, I'm a parent, but I don't negotiate with terrorists. And sometimes they let one of the children just run a bit feral, in my opinion. And it's ironic, I'm someone that slightly runs a bit feral, but again, tries to exercise control. Because there's nothing wrong with necessarily cuddling outside the lines. It's just about coming back to center, That is creation. It's expanding and contracting. The center will hold. That's an ode to Yeats, if you are familiar. And so, this child can sometimes be a bit ornery and a bit obstinate. And there were instances where today I didn't necessarily handle. I shouldn't say handle. I don't give the child the same. I'm struggling for the right word. The same boundaries, leeways? No. As a parent, and even as a grandma, I have a stepson. Although I'm a divorcee, my stepson has blessed me with grandchildren, so we're contemporaries. And it's hard because in this particular friend dynamic, the grandparents watching the child are older than me. They could actually be my parents. So it's one of those to where it's sort of like, I get it, it's tough, but again, it's not like I'm not speaking from experience, though it might be painful for you to have to admit. But the child could just be, hey, hey, hey. And it's 5 now. And so I will speak to it like it's a young adult. And I will say, no, if you're wanting to get my attention, you will say, excuse me. Like, I will ignore it. Like, hey, 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 hey. In your face, just being a typical child. But I didn't even tolerate this with my own children. So I'm certainly not going to tolerate it. That is not my love. My love for you is to help you, child, become the best human that you can be. And that is potentially save you from catching a butt whooping if someone is not okay with it and decides to parent you in a different way than I'm going to. So I just said, if you are speaking to me, please say excuse me, use my name. You can call me blank, blank, blank. And, I'm not necessarily trying to be anonymous. I will go ahead and tell you my name. I said, in this instance, you can call me Yolanda, Yoli, something. If it works for you, just make sure to make a point to specify. And there came an instance at a different point to where the child just started touching things and anchored its paper down. And to be clear, I'm being specific about the pronouns because I would never necessarily want to dox anyone. Funnily enough, I've been observed as perhaps outing people, and I would never. As a creator, and I don't even mean in my YouTube videos, I mean I write, just as an artist. My art is my life. I want to show up authentically, but trying to speak on my experience to empower others to do the same, to grow, to heal, to learn. It's how we connect. I'm just not necessarily wanting to particularly out or identify. It's not my place. So I am trying to be more mindful in a lot of ways on the things that I speak on, especially out of respect for someone who is very dear to me. And although we don't resonate in the same ways, I wouldn't necessarily want them to feel disrespected. So, and in this particular instance, so with the child, after showing a toy to me and just being like, this is my toy, blah, 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 don't touch my toy, don't take my toy, as I continued to ignore it, and after having if you would like my attention, please, be respectful. And then the adults, mind you, it's blah, 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 it's only 5, yada, 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 yada. No, it's also on us, the adults, to set the energy, because children will match the energy. We have to treat them as we expect them to behave, and they will rise to the occasion, truly. So, that being said, there came an instance where the child grabbed my water bottle and put it on their paper that they were drawing on, and an ashtray and other things. And I said, you're a thief. I said, thief. And again, it's a child. And think of this what you will. I'm not trying to pose myself or look better or present errors. I want to be genuine and authentic. That's the point. I said, you're a thief. No, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. You're a thief. No, I'm not. And then child went off. I don't like you. That's bad. I'm sorry you feel that way. I love you anyway. We'll talk about this at another time. So eventually child comes back. Grandpa. She says I'm a thief. She's as mean. Hers is bad. I said, you are a thief. Let's unpack this for a bit. Mr. On and on and on about don't touch my unicorn. That water bottle was mine. You didn't ask if you could touch it. This right here, and I pointed out the ashtray. And again, not that I'm trying to parent anybody's child, but since nobody else wanted to acknowledge it, I said, this isn't good. You can get bad icky stuff in your skin. And I'm a smoker, mind you, so this is not to shame anyone, but it is more to be mindful and to keep, a child aware of the fact that the skin absorbs. It's the largest organ in the body. Google it if you don't believe me. And mind you, it's not like this was painted with DMSO, so it's not like it was going to absorb in the skin, but still, things absorb in the skin. So I said, this isn't good for your health, etc. I'm not a thief. I said, first of all, let's talk about it. I think every single human being is stolen, so let's deal with that. I'm not saying you're good, bad, etc. More importantly, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, and no judgments to people that aren't, but this was just to connect and level with this child. And actually, this child was a Catholic, but as a Catholic, a practitioner of Christ and Christ's teachings, I said Lazarus was a thief. And Jesus forgave Lazarus. I was like, let's talk about this. I said Lazarus, but Lazarus. Sorry, I got distracted. You heard the skip. I said, what made you a thief in this particular instance is that you did not ask. And though I did not acknowledge your rude talk when you were in my face trying to get attention because you did not respect my boundary of the unicorn and this is mine, don't touch it, etc., it's very ironic that you then went and touched something, and not just one thing, multiple things, without seeking permission. So the sense is, technically, yes, you are a thief. And that was beautiful too. Just because in a lot of ways I've realized how I've kind of neutered and censored myself for fear of maybe retribution, not even retaliation, but just maybe wanting to be perceived as harsh, etc. But it is about stepping into ourselves and being authentic and giving people the space, allowing these people the chance to be like, you're terrible. I don't think we ever want to have you here again because of the way that you give off a you could eat little children vibe, which is not the case. I understand I might seem like the creepy swamp witch under the bridge, but come on. And I don't mean this truly, but oftentimes there are children to where sometimes people are just like, man, I wouldn't kick a child in the face, but if ever I might consider it, you might be the one pass that I might try to have a conversation about. And Olive Voltaire, who I cited in a previous video, we are all guilty of the good that we do not do. For lack of a better way to put it, I struggle with so much of the way that we do things in our society because I think so much of it is just mindless distraction because we're not necessarily okay. We're seeking connection. We are seeking just depth, our hearts, our minds, our souls. We just want to be seen. We want to be valued and appreciated. And I want to hopefully not be the first and not be the last to tell you you are so loved and you are so valued and you are so needed in this world. And you might be like, whatever, I think I should still be okay. Garden hoe. I'm still gonna make this a not 18 plus. No, but truly, let's say that you're a drug dealer or what have you. There is so much in this world, and we are presented with so many opportunities to grow and evolve. And I don't know, call me crazy. If you were to look at my dating history, I'll be the first to tell you I believe in a great redemption arc. We are nothing if not the experiences that make us who we are. But there are things like patterns, etc., the choices we are choosing to make as we show up and how we grow and change. And it is so beautiful. I think of the Merkaba and just everything all at once and finding that beautiful equilibrium. And if I truly believe that, everyone is valuable and everyone has a purpose and a point and a place, I have to do my best to kind of show up. And in these times, it's interesting where, we have these rhetorics or, you go low, I'm going to go lower, etc. These battles for dominance energy to where people just love to seek, again, connection in the strangest ways. Be it you post a comment on, for me, it's YouTube these days. I quit social media because it's not normal. It's not healthy to need attention and validation from other people. And it's funny because I've been observed as being that way because I would perhaps be bothered by people not liking or substantiating, but that actually wasn't my point. It's more, why are we engaging? Why are you choosing to consider yourself a friend? Why do you want to say that you're like attached to me, but yet you don't want to support me? And so many people that align with you anyway aren't necessarily down for you. They wouldn't help to pay your bills if you were struggling. They might even talk about you if you were going through hard times. And so to seek validation and approval, to get to say, "Ooh, I know them, I connect, we're friends." Bull pucky. So I stopped it. And I chose YouTube because, funnily enough, it is a way to where it's not. I'm not trying to get monetized. I'm just trying to connect with people. I'm just trying to hold a space, share my experience. If it seems resonant, cool. If you want to check it out. If not, who knows? I think things, I talk about things, and who knows what that might empower you to do. Maybe some weird thing I say will be what inspires you to go take up painting, and you're gonna do the next big painting, and you're gonna deal with the nasty money that I think is kind of gross, and then you're gonna collapse the system. Or who knows, you might just prove that everything is energy and that's the true currency. Hell, you might be the Antichrist and you're bringing about the change that is actually needed and we've misinterpreted it. I think until everybody can just kind of learn to breathe and healthily, emotionally navigate, etc., it might be a little bit troubled in these times. Who knows? I'm still struggling to decide what the name of this video was. I didn't even necessarily have a centristic point, to be completely honest with you, a succinct point, etc. I know maybe it's just nice to talk, to connect, to align. I know I said grab a snack, you get comfortable, but because I didn't necessarily have a point, I don't really have much more to say. Just, man, life is beautiful. And I'm glad that you are here. And we are all in this together. So just remember that. We are changing the world every single day, every single way, and how we're doing things. And just because everybody else is doing it and they're saying that that's what's what, keep in mind that's actually absolutely crap. Because we're all different people, and even to agree on something like Campbell's soup, right? We all agree Campbell's soup is Campbell's soup if you saw the label and it was Campbell's soup, and if it were chicken noodle, we'd agree it's chicken noodle soup, right? But your chicken noodle soup could never be my chicken noodle soup, and so even agreeing on it is kind of silly. It is a beautiful, beautiful world, and you are so needed. Make good choices, be healthy, inhale. Stop just watching dumb content and listening to dumb things and not necessarily thinking what you're thinking. What is dumb, right? Who gets to decide that? Well, I don't know. In this particular instance, I might say lack of depth, lack of lack of content, a lack of purpose. You know, are these creators trying to make the world a better place? Are they talking about how wonderful you are and how you're making it a better place and things that you can do? It starts with breathing, it starts with mindfulness, just being mindful of your thoughts. Seriously, that is so much of how we create our reality. Just being mindful if we're thinking dark, intrusive thoughts, just breathing and remembering we have infinite choices. We really, really do. That's what the name of this video is going to be. I am Thanos. No. I'm kidding. Limitless possibilities. We do, because I guess at the end of the day, that's just it. We get to choose how we show up, and so many people are going to tell you what to do, what to think, what to be, but at the end of the day, you get to decide, and only you know what's in your head and your heart, and that's where, unfortunately, the guilt, the shame, all of these things come in, because you know your intentions, you know if you could do more, you know what you're doing, you know how you're doing it, etc. Limitless possibility. You are abundant. So wait, limitless possibilities, unlimited ultimate abundance. I love alliteration. I don't know, man. How about live in your sovereignty, make good choices, because you are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are sovereign. You are kings and queens. That's it. You are kings and queens. And not like in the Jared Leto, PayPal me and let me send you my deeds, let's go on our fabulous island. But you are the kings and queens, and you are limitless potential and boundless. And I'm loving you this day and always. And How are we going to change the world?
Mwah!